Hare Krishna, friends. I am here to continue our reading of Srimad Bhagavatam, the second reading for today. Before we get started, please join me with folded hands for the prayers. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. While we are reading this awesome literature, one of the things that I am thinking about and what comes to my mind, which I wish to share with all of you, is the difference between being what we understand as good and being right. The real understanding of our swadharma, of our duties. So it all has to start from self-awareness and then becoming aware of what our real dharma or duty is, and then following it to the core so that we are righteous and following our swadharma, which is the right way of living. And then while we do that, we should all get busy making the best use of this life to ultimately get rid of this cycle of birth and death that we have got entangled in by detachment from everything that is material and temporary, and developing our attachment and affection with the Supreme Lord, which is actually our ultimate destination, understanding what is the real thing which is beneficial for us, and really working towards going back home, going back to Godhead, as it has been repeatedly said in this book. So while we read, it's a story, we can enjoy that, we can be in awe of things that we read and how things were, we can look at it from a history perspective also, but most importantly, I think what I am enjoying is really to see how I can learn something from this and adjust something in my life so that I can live this life more in a more purposeful manner, and I can get more benefits from this life, and ultimately know the secrets of really going back home, going back to Godhead, because ultimate happiness only lies there, right? So I wish all of you are also having your own realizations this way, and I always look forward to hearing from you on what has been your feeling, what are your realizations, what are your learnings, and how you're benefiting from this reading. That will be really, really awesome to share. So please write to me whenever you wish, whatever you wish related to this subject on archana@consciouslivingcenter.in. Center is CENTER, by the way. Alright, so we'll continue our reading. So we are reading Srimad Bhagavatam, first canto, with translation and purport by Srila A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, and we are currently reading chapter 17, entitled Punishment and Reward of Kali, and we will continue our reading from text 20. Apratarkyad anirdeshyad iti keshva api Nishchayaha atra nurupam rajarishe vimarsha sva manishaya. Translation: There are also some thinkers who believe that no one can ascertain the cause of distress by argumentation, nor know it by imagination, nor express it by words. O sage amongst kings, judge for yourself by thinking over all this with your own intelligence. Purport: the Vaishnavites, the devotees of the Lord, do believe, as above explained, that nothing can take place without the sanction of the Supreme Lord. He is the Supreme Director, for he confirms in the Bhagavad Gita, chapter 15, verse 15, that he, as all-pervading Paramatma, stays in everyone's heart and keeps vigilance over all actions and witnesses all activities. The argument of the atheist that one cannot be punished for one's misdeeds unless proved before a qualified justice is refuted herein, for we accept the perpetual witness and constant companion of the living being. A living being may forget all that he might have done in his past or present life, but one must know that in the same tree of the material body, the individual soul and the supreme soul as Paramatma are sitting like two birds. One of them, the living being, is enjoying the fruits of the tree, whereas the Supreme Being is there to witness the activities. Therefore, the Paramatma feature, the Supreme Soul, is actually the witness of all activities of the living being, and only by his direction can the living being remember or forget what he might have done in the past. He is, therefore, both the all-pervading impersonal Brahman and the localized Paramatma in everyone's heart. He is the knower of all past, present and future, and nothing can be concealed from him. The devotees know this truth, and therefore they discharge their duties sincerely without being overly anxious for rewards. Besides that, one cannot estimate the Lord's reactions either by speculation or by scholarship. Why does he put some into difficulty and not others? He is the supreme knower of the Vedic knowledge, and thus he is the factual Vedantist. At the same time, he is the compiler of the Vedanta. No one is independent of him, and everyone is engaged in his service in different ways. In the conditioned state, such services are rendered by the living being under force of the material nature, whereas in the liberated state, the living being is helped by the spiritual nature in the voluntary loving service of the Lord. There is no incongruity or inebriety in his actions. All are on the path of absolute truth. Bhishma Deva correctly estimated the inconceivable actions of the Lord. The conclusion is therefore that the sufferings of the representative of religion and the representative of the earth as present before Maharaja Parikshit were planned to prove that Maharaja Parikshit was the ideal executive head because he knew well how to give protection to the cows, the earth, and the Brahmanas, religious principles, the two pillars of spiritual advancement. Everyone is under the full control of the Lord. He is quite correct in his action when he desires something to be done by someone, irrespective of the consideration of the particular case. Maharaja Parikshit was thus put to test for his greatness. Now let us see how he solves it by his sagacious mind. Text 21. Sutta Uvacha Evam dharme pravadati sa samrad dvijasattamaha samahiten manasa vikhedah paryachashtatam. Translation: Suta Goswami said, O best among the Brahmanas, the Emperor Parikshit, thus hearing the personality of religion speak, was fully satisfied, and without mistake or regret he gave his reply. Purport: the statement of the bull, the personality of religion, was full of philosophy and knowledge, and the king was satisfied since he could understand that the suffering bull was not an ordinary one. Unless one is perfectly conversant with the law of the Supreme Lord, one cannot speak such things touching philosophical truths. The emperor, being also on an equal level of sagacity, replied to the point without doubts or mistakes. Text 22. Rajovacha dharmam bravishi dharmagya dharmosi vrisharupadrakka yad dharma kritah sthanam suchak syapi tadbhavet. Translation: the king said, O you who are in the form of a bull, You know the truth of religion, and you are speaking according to the principle that the destination intended for the perpetrator of irreligious acts is also intended for one who identifies the perpetrator. You are no other than the personality of religion. Purport. A devotee's conclusion is that no one is directly responsible for being a benefactor or mischief monger without the sanction of the Lord. Therefore, he does not consider anyone to be directly responsible for such action. But in both the cases, he takes it for granted that either benefit or loss is God sent, and thus it is his grace. In case of benefit, no one will deny that it is God sent, but in case of loss or reverses, one becomes doubtful about how the Lord could be so unkind to his devotee as to put him in great difficulty. Jesus Christ was seemingly put into such great difficulty being crucified by the ignorant, but he was never angry at the mischief mongers. This is the way of accepting a thing either favorable or unfavorable. Thus, for a devotee, the identifier is equally a sinner like the mischief monger. By God's grace, the devotee tolerates all reverses. Maharaja Parikshit observed this, and therefore he could understand that the bull was no other than the personality of religion himself. In other words, a devotee has no suffering at all because so-called suffering is also God's grace for a devotee who sees God in everything. The cow and bull never placed any complaint before the king for being tortured by the personality of Kali, although everyone lodges such complaints before the state authorities. The extraordinary behavior of the bull made the king conclude that the bull was certainly the personality of religion, for no one else could understand the finer intricacies of the codes of religion. Text 23. Athva deva mayaya nunam gatir gochara chetaso vachasaschapi bhutanamiti nishchayaha. Translation. Thus it is concluded that the Lord's energies are inconceivable. No one can estimate them by mental speculation or by word jugglery. Purport. A question may be raised as to why a devotee should refrain from identifying an actor, although he knows definitely that the Lord is the ultimate doer of everything. Knowing the ultimate doer, one should not pose himself as ignorant of the actual performer. To answer this doubt, the reply is that the Lord is also not directly responsible, for everything is done by his deputed Maya Shakti or material energy. The material energy is always provoking doubts about the Supreme Personality of the Lord. The personality of religion knew perfectly well that nothing can take place without the sanction of the Supreme Lord, and still he was put into doubts by the deluding energy, and thus he refrained from mentioning the Supreme Cause. This doubtfulness was due to the contamination of both Kali and the material energy. The whole atmosphere of the age of Kali is magnified by the deluding energy, and the proportion of measurement is inexplicable. Text 24. Tapah shaucham daya satyamiti padaha krite kritaha adharmam shaistrayo bhagnaha smaya sang madaistava. Translation. In the age of Satya or truthfulness, your four legs were established by the four principles of austerity, cleanliness, mercy, and truthfulness. But it appears that three of your legs are broken due to rampant irreligion in the form of pride, lust for women, and intoxication. Wow, this is very, very powerful. I just want to read this again to just hold on to the words here. In the age of Satya or truthfulness, your four legs were established by the four principles. And what are these four principles? Austerity, cleanliness, mercy, and truthfulness. Austerity, cleanliness, mercy, and truthfulness. But it appears that three of your legs are broken due to rampant irreligion in the form of pride, lust for women, and intoxication. Purport. The deluding energy or material nature can act upon the living beings proportionately in terms of the living beings falling prey to the deluding attraction of Maya. Moths are captivated by the glaring brightness of light, and thus they become prey to the fire. Similarly, the deluding energy is always captivating the conditioned souls to become prey to the fire of delusion, and the Vedic scriptures warn the conditioned souls not to become prey to delusion but to get rid of it. The Vedas warn us to go not to the darkness of ignorance but to the progressive path of light. The Lord Himself also warns that the deluding power of material energy is too powerful to overcome, but one who completely surrenders unto the Lord can easily do so. But to surrender unto the lotus feet of the Lord is also not very easy. Such surrender is possible by persons of austerity, cleanliness, mercy, and truthfulness. These four principles of advanced civilization were remarkable features in the age of Satya. In that age, every human being was practically a qualified Brahmana of the highest order, and in the social orders of life, they were all Paramahamsas or the topmost in the renounced order. By cultural standing, the human beings were not at all subjected to the deluding energy. Such strong men of character were competent enough to get away from the clutches of Maya. But gradually, as the basic principles of Brahmanical culture, namely austerity, cleanliness, mercy, and truthfulness, became curtailed by proportionate development of pride, attachment for women, and intoxication, the path of salvation or the path of transcendental bliss retreated far, far away from human society. With the progression of the age of Kali, people are becoming very proud and attached to women and intoxication. By the influence of the age of Kali, even a pauper is proud of his penny. The women are always dressed in an overly attractive fashion to victimize the minds of men, and the man is addicted to drinking wine, smoking, drinking tea, and chewing tobacco, etc. All these habits or so-called advancement of civilization are the root causes of all irreligiosities, and therefore it is not possible to check corruption, bribery, and nepotism. Man cannot check all these evils simply by statutory acts and police vigilance, but he can cure the disease of the mind by the proper medicine, namely advocating the principles of Brahmanical culture or the principles of austerity, cleanliness, mercy, and truthfulness. Modern civilization and economic development are creating a new situation of poverty and scarcity with the result of blackmailing the consumers' commodities. If the leaders and the rich men of the society spend 50% of their accumulated wealth mercifully for the misled mass of people and educate them in God consciousness, the knowledge of Bhagavatam, certainly the age of Kali will be defeated in its attempt to entrap the conditioned souls. We must always remember that false pride or too high an estimation of one's own values of life, undue attachment to women or association with them, and intoxication with divert human civilization from the path of peace, however much the people clamor for peace in the world. The preaching of the Bhagavatam principles will automatically render all men austere, clean both inside and outside, merciful to the suffering, and truthful in daily behavior. That is the way of correcting the flaws of human society, which are very prominently exhibited at the present moment. Wow. Very powerful reading, giving us some tips of what we all need to be doing within ourselves and outside of us so that we can benefit the society in general. With this, we'll end the second reading for today, friends. I wish you all a very auspicious, happy, and conscious day ahead. I will see you all again tomorrow. Till then, be safe, be happy. Hare Krishna.